In Skyrim, there's a lot of things you can do, an almost endless amount, and a lot of people have tried to figure out what is the extent of this. Well, today I asked the question, can you beat Skyrim as Van Helsing from the 2004 movie starring Hugh Jackman? Rules of this run is I can only use a crossbow and be a werewolf. I have to kill as many vampires as I can. This includes in the Dawnguard DLC, and except for Serana. I must become a werewolf, obviously. And my favorite part, kill Lord Harkon as a werewolf. Now, this is my first ever challenge run. So if you like this, please comment, like it, give me some suggestions for things I should do. And quick little shout out, yes, I draw big inspiration from Nerbit, Joov, ItsJabo, and rest in peace, Mitten Squad. But like I said, please like, subscribe, comment. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. And let's get into it. So starting off, I chose a Nord because they looked most like Hugh Jackman. It took me a minute to get something that I was satisfied with, but eventually got the right haircut and named my character, and we were off on our adventure with old Van Helsing. I then watch in horror as one of Ulfric's boys gets his head cut off. I then walk up as it is my turn on the chopping block. Now, a little thing going forward. I'm going to definitely have to do the Companions questline, as that's the only way to become a werewolf, to my knowledge. And thanks to Todd Howard for re-releasing Skyrim for the millionth time, as the Anniversary Edition gives me, which I own, gives me access to a crossbow that I can get without having to do the Dawnguard DLC, which you have to be level 10 to be able to start. I then proceed to take on the full force of Alduin's fire. I then abandon Hadvar just to reunite with him in the keep. I drop a sword that I cannot use and bask in the beauty of Van Helsing. I grab a few supplies as I run by and just go by all the enemies without attacking them, because of course I can't do that yet until I get me a crossbow. And I meet Hadvar outside. I then grab the Thief Stone. I go to the Riverwood Trader and sell all the things that I got from the bodies and stuff from Helgen. I then proceeded to stare angrily at the giant as the companions beat the crap out of him, while I stood there helpless because I don't have a weapon. I also looked at Rhea's beautiful arrow piercing. Ayla berates me. I then make a quick jog to Bellathor's store to see if he had any kind of goodies. And then I see the black robes. And I think for a second that this is going to be my outfit for the remainder of this run. But I am sadly mistaken. This will have to do for now. I enter Horviskir. I speak with Kodlak so that I can join the companions. Now we enter a sort of gray area. A lot of people would consider this part right here failing the challenge because I do punch Vilcus right here, but I, along with a bunch of other challenge runners, have universally agreed that if it's required by the quest or by the story to progress, then it's okay. If you think that I failed the run, like Nerbit said, feel free to let me know in the comments. I then make my way to a giant camp so that I can recover a stolen sword for one of the companion leaders. I then do a little bit of sneaking behind this giant to get the sword, but I do not think that the Thieves Guild would be very proud considering the giant just barely misses me. I then return the sword to Score. I talk to Skjor again so that I can get the next quest. I don't know why he could not have told this to me while I talked to him seconds ago. It don't much matter. Anyway, so I decide to make a little bit of a detour, and I get the carriage guy to take me to Riften. I was going to try to just go ahead and go straight to Fort Dawnguard, because I know if you go talk to Durak, he will give you a free crossbow along with like 40 bolts. Now, the thing that I didn't realize, you know how at the beginning I said that the anniversary edition gave me free crossbows? I was not aware of this yet. I just recently bought Anniversary Edition, so I did not know that I could go get one of these crossbows before Dawnstar. Something else I did was I sold my black robes and just pretty much ran around naked for the next good chunk of the run. The reason I did this, I really am not so sure. I'm pretty sure I attempted to buy something that looked a little bit more like Van Helsing's actual outfit, but I guess not. I arrive where Fort Dawnguard's entrance would be, but this is where I realize it is true that I in fact have to wait until I'm level 10 to start the Dawnguard DLC. I travel back to west of Whiterun to Dustman's Cairn to continue on with the Companion's quest line. So, because I thought that if I can't get a crossbow, I can at least get to the werewolf, and that'll be something I could actually use. I then get locked in a cage as I watch one of the coolest reveals I can remember as a kid as Farkas turns into a werewolf. He then makes sure that my heart is still beating, considering I just watched him turn into a ginormous wolf creature. I then proceed to take almost 20 minutes to get past this last part. Now, the reason that took so long is because in order to leave Dustman's Cairn, you have to kill all the Draugrs that are attacking you right after you take the part of, what's it called? The fragment of Wuthrad. Now, obviously I can't become a werewolf yet, nor do I have a crossbow. So this is, in fact, a problem. So I, no joke, just ran around and waited until Farkas would respawn, or would get back up. He'd hit maybe 2 times, and then he'd die. Hit maybe 2 times, and he'd die. I died multiple times. I think maybe 2 or 3 times. I wish I would have died more. Made me want to die. But eventually, I was able to withhold long enough so that I could the correct grave coffin thing would open up to allow me to be able to get through and out of the cairn. I then return to Horviskir, still unclothed, to officially join the companions. After officially becoming a companion, I go off to do Farkas's quest that sends me to go resolve a dispute. And I thought I would just have to tell somebody that, hey, they don't need to be doing whatever it is they're doing. But in actuality, I would have to brawl that Battleborn lady over there. Now, of course, that's a problem considering I can't fight anybody because it goes against the rules. Great. I then make the long trek to Rorikstead because I know that you can also hear of the Dawnguard via rumors. But I assume either it didn't work for me, or I assume that you still also have to be level 10 to be able to get these rumors, because it is to no avail. I didn't get the rumor about the Dawnguard. Great. I then hitch a little ride on the river. I then make my way to Morthal, and I show off my true power. Unsure of what to do, I decide to help the Jarl Idgroth Ravencrone, with the quest for Morthal to see what I could do, considering I had nothing else to do because I was stuck at the moment. And little did I know what was involved. Vampires. I, of course, was not able to do much considering I still did not have a weapon, so I decided to just run away. I then bait one of the Morthal guards to go and fight the vampire for me. I then finally find some clothes that kind of fit the bill. I then grab Alva's journal, but I do not kill her. Yet. I then realize that I have access to crossbows without the Dawnguard via the Anniversary Edition. I then, once again, spend entirely too long looking for the place where the letter is that shows you where the crossbow is. I then grab the letter starting the quest. I then go to the location that the letter sends me to, and we are now in business. I now have the weapon that I've waited hours to be able to use. I then bring the crossbow back to the bandit camp and wreak havoc. I actually did the exact opposite of wreaking havoc, and I would have died here if it was not for this very brave wood elf that decided to just sacrifice his life to protect somebody that he has never met before. And he sadly gets his head smished by a hammer. Once I get by the bandits and I enter the cellar, I find the weapon that I will be using for the remainder of this run, the ebony crossbow. I then return to Morthal, to the Jarl, to finish off the quest I started earlier, and I finally get to do some vampire killing. When I got to where the vampires were, I had an army, but they all decided to leave. But I had this man, Thalmor, who was brave enough to actually enter the vampire's den with me. And then here it is, my first vampire kill of the run.
Well, seems like you have a bit of gold left in your pockets, don't you, my friend? Yes. What was that? What was that?
As I was fighting the Master Vampire, I noticed that somebody came to help me. It was Alva, and I guess while I was playing I didn't realize that it was Alva. I'm not sure why she decided to betray her vampire kin, but, you know, I appreciate the help. I'm still going to be back later for her. I now finally have something that looks somewhat like our boy Van Helsing. I killed the final vampire that was in the cave. I then return back to the Jarl to get my reward for killing the vampire, and then I head off back to the companion so that I can become a werewolf. That way, I can officially start the challenge. Yeah? So you remember how earlier when I did the job for Farkas, or I was going to, but I remembered that I cannot fight anybody because it will technically fail the challenge. Well, I kind of soft-locked myself into the companion line. But I'm going to make a little exception here because if I don't brawl with her, then I can't do anything and the challenge is over. So technically I failed the challenge here, but then again it's the same thing as how when I had to fight Vilkas. It is possible to not do this quest. So you do know that there is a way to, but I'm just not the brightest and did not catch it. So I do have to brawl with her, but you will see later I kind of pay for it. I then return back to Jorviskir and talk to Skjor, and I finally do the last thing to set up for the challenge run. I then meet him at the Underforge where he told me to meet him. I then take a little sip of Ayla's werewolf blood, and I finally am able to start this challenge. Me and Ayla end up going to the Silverhand outpost, and I become a werewolf and just demolish these poor people. And then after this quest, I never touch the companions again. I then travel back to Riverwood to help out our friend Findall, because there's a little something you can do with your companions that can teach you skills. If you go up to them and, of course, recruit them, you can still get them to teach you skills. Whatever skill they're trying to teach you. Like Findall, for instance, teaches archery. Now, the thing is, you can pay him all the money that you have until you run out, and then you can go trade things with him and take that money right back and just go over the process as many times as you can for your level. I could have taken a big advantage of this, but I only do it this time and one other time. I speak to the Jarl about what happened with the dragon at Helgen. I then turn a Whiterun guard into Kung Lao. I absolutely demolish these low-level bandits in Draugr. I instantly put down Arvel. I grab the dragon stone. I return the stone to Farengar. I speak to the Jarl about the dragon that's about to attack. Right as I was going to where we were going to fight the dragon, I buy a horse map from the stables guy. As soon as I turn around, I see one of the wild horses behind me, and so I attempt to tame it. So you will see this horse going on throughout the video. Its name is Glade. We make really, really quick work of this poor dragon. I then return to Jarl Balgruuf to tell him about the dragon that we just defeated, and he then sends me off to speak with the fabled Greybeards. As I start my climbing of the 7,000 steps of High Hearthgear, I start to think a little bit about, did they actually put 7,000 steps on there? And I was like, that would make an amazing video. So, you may or may not be seeing that in the future. I do the usual Greybeard thing that I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've played Skyrim or at least watched other Skyrim videos before, and you already know what the Greybeards are all about. So I will not be going over it. I go to see who stole the horn from the mission that the Greybeard sends you off on, and lo and behold, it's Delphine. Who would have thought? Everybody's favorite character, Delphine. Anyway, right after this, me and her go to take on the dragon that Alduin is resurrecting. We quickly kill the dragon. Delphine then sends me to go infiltrate the Thalmor embassy, which this is honestly one of my favorite quests to do. I once again nakedly run across the road to go to the farm where I will board the carriage into the Thalmor embassy. I then see the Jarl at the Thalmor embassy, and I ask her to help me out, and she does, which I didn't know. If you help some people that you help before you get to the Thalmor embassy, they will help you make a distraction, like I just showed you there. I then find a pretty snazzy looking outfit, which is the Thalmor robes, the unhooded Thalmor robes, and man, does it look amazing. And as you can see here, I attempted to sneak by the Thalmor as if I was a high elf, but it did work. And for the first time ever in me ever playing Skyrim, I'm actually able to keep the prisoner from the Thalmor embassy alive, along with Malborn. And after escaping the Thalmor embassy, I watch as a dragon just dies. I'm not really sure how he died. Maybe he kind of landed on the tree and died of fall damage. Not really sure. Maybe that dragon up there killed him. I really don't know. It's completely unexplained to me. I then make my way to Riften to free Esbern, and as we are leaving, my boy Esbern absolutely carries me through the Riften Ratways. He destroys the Thalmor left and right. As we are leaving the Ratways, I notice a little somebody that was following me. It's the courier. I'm not sure why he cares about his job so deeply that he would follow me into one of the most dangerous cities in all of Tamriel. But, you know, maybe he's trying to get that raise, trying to get that Christmas bonus. As I'm leaving Riften, I give a beggar some gold, and then I'm attacked by a Khajiit. And this beggar absolutely demolishes this assassin, I guess. Just watch. Look at him. She just starts knifing her, and then just... Good lord. That's why you should always give to charity, I guess, is the lesson learned here. And as I make my third attempt to leave Riften, look who shows up to speak with me. Durak, the Dawnguard. You cannot describe how excited I was when this man finally showed up to me. I make a beeline to Fort Dawnguard. I speak to Isran to go ahead and get these vampire killing missions going. As soon as I'm done talking to Isran, I realize Esbern is still with me, so I go to return him to Delphine. Once I return him to Delphine, I then go back to my vampire killing spree. Just kidding. I actually go ahead and get the Blades headquarters mission over with, because I really do not like this quest. After that, I then go to free Serana. I do a little bit of vampire hunting as a werewolf, as I've rarely used this. I used it a little bit in this dungeon. I think I may have done it one other time, but that clip doesn't really matter. I then free one of, if not the best companion in the game, Serana. We make a harrowing escape. I then make my way to the Fletcher to buy his entire stock of crossbow bolts. I travel to the very spooky vampire castle. And even though he looks very cool as that vampire lord king thing, I refuse his gift because, obviously, and I am banished from the castle. I then return to Isran to continue the quest line, but I notice that his aura is so great that it is actually seeable by the human eye. I then go and pick up Serene, along with my personal favorite Gunmar, and after I return to Fort Dawnguard, I take a moment to bask in the absolute glory that is Van Helsing. I then do one of my biggest regrets of this entire run and actually accept the quest to go retrieve the schematics to make an improved crossbow. Keep in mind, I never end up using the schematics to make an improved crossbow. I don't think this is my first time ever doing the quest, but when I tell you that that was the most difficult part of this run, it was the most difficult part of this run. I go ahead and grab the schematics, and I get out of there. I give Serene her stupid schematics. I make my final outfit change. I go and speak to Isran and Serena. Then our friend, the very determined courier, gives me a letter to a dinner gathering. Now, this is another one of the most frustrating things I will do with this challenge. I make my way up to where the dinner party is located, and it got a genuine scare out of me. After dying multiple times, I then give up and swear to return later to defeat these terrible vampires. I do a little magic trick so that they will let me into the College of Winterhold. I speak to my favorite orc, Urag Growshrub, about a moth priest. I free said moth priest, even if that does mean I put a few crossbow bolts in his chest. I watch as wannabe Esbern reads the Elder Scroll. I then speak to Serena about where her mother could be hiding. I then throw a quick little curveball as I go to hire Hrothgear to go ahead and start completing the main quests. I then go and speak to one of my favorite characters in Skyrim, Parthenax, and he sends me off to go find the Dragon Elder Scroll. I then once again speak to Urag, who sends me to go speak to some hermit out in the ice who happens to know something about the Elder Scrolls. I then go ahead and speak to Septibus Cygnus about the Elder Scroll, and he sends me off to a wonderful place, Blackreath. I do not like Blackreath. Let me be definitely not the first, and most definitely not the last to say that I do not like Dwemer Ruins. Now, I may have been a little bit harsh a minute ago when I said that I absolutely despise Blackreath. I don't like the first part of it, but this part right here, I think it's one of the most beautiful places in all of gaming. Now, that might be a bit of a hot take, but, you know, you can tell me just how much you disagree with me in the comments. After fighting off the Thalmor, I finally press a few buttons and get the Elder Scroll. I do a usual little Skyrim hobby of time traveling to figure out a dragon language. Now, as soon as I got back into the present, I of course have to fight Alduin. And I did die a few times, but that has less to do with the challenge run and more to do with me not bringing enough healing supplies, because I don't even think I brought any kind of healing potions. Anywho, after that, I go ahead and head to talk to Parthenax, who then sends me to go speak to our favorite Jarl Bulgraf, and try to convince him to allow us to capture a dragon in his castle. Once I arrive in Whiterun, I talk to Jarl Bulgraf, and he of course is not too pleased with me wanting to trap a literal dragon in his castle. But due to the silver tongue of Van Helsing, he is convinced on the condition that I can convince the General Tullius and Ulfric Stormcloak to have a ceasefire. Why can't anything be easy in this game? I head back up to High Hrothgar to ask Argnir if he would be willing to host a peace council between the Stormcloaks and the Imperials. Argnir reluctantly agrees, so I head off to speak to Ulfric and General Tullius. I speak to both of them, and they both agree to come to High Hrothgar to discuss at the Peace Council. Now, this was my first time ever having the Peace Council part of the story, because I've usually already dealt with the Civil War by this point. Now, I have to say, this was pretty cool. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this part, but that's probably also because they do it a lot. I don't, so I enjoyed this part a lot. But the only thing I did not enjoy is Serana constantly saying, "Yes, what did you need?" over and over again while I was trying to listen. After we convince the Imperials and Stormcloaks to have a ceasefire, I go to speak with Esbern about how to capture a dragon. He tells me the name of a dragon who will be fit to be captured, and he also tries to convince me to kill Parthenax. That's not going to work, Esbern. And that right there is the last interaction I have with any kind of blades. Before going to the final part of the game, I decide to go ahead and stock up on some healing potions. I then return to Dragonreach. I try to see if Odahviing would pick me up instead of the Whiterun Guard. He would not. And obviously this is one of the easiest quote-unquote boss fights there is. All you gotta do is just taunt him into the inside where the trap will spring. I then capture Odahviing, and I convince him to take me to Skuldaffa. Now, if I were you, I'd probably take this in, because this is probably the first and last time you will ever see Van Helsing ride off onto a dragon. Once I arrived at Skuldaffa, I just decided that I would turn into a werewolf and sprint by all the enemies here. And do not tell me you have not done this before. And if I'm the only person that's done this, please let me know, because I kind of assume that everybody does this at least once. Once I get up top, I just run by Miraak and right into Sovngarde. Once I'm in Dawnguard, I talk to Soon and I fight him so that I can enter the Hall of Heroes. Once inside, I speak to Feldir, Harkon, and Gorm Laith, and they decide to come defeat Alduin with me. Us four true sons of Skyrim go to defeat Alduin, and I'm sure you can guess how this goes. Now, the final Alduin fight wasn't, I wouldn't say it was anticlimactic, but it was a whole lot easier than expected. It pretty much just consisted of me dragon wrench shooting. I'm sure you know how it would have gone down, but like I said, I didn't think that I was powerful enough to take him down as quick as I did. And after a not so long time of dragon rending and shooting at Alduin, I defeat Alduin, the World Eater. And that, ladies and gentlemen, answers your question. Yes, you can beat Skyrim as Van Helsing. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. I'm sure at this point you've looked down and noticed that there's a good chunk of video left. No, I'm not done. Yes, I beat Skyrim. But yes, that answers your question. Can you beat Skyrim as Van Helsing? But we still have to do the Dawnguard. So, buckle up. We still got a minute. Now that we're back in Tamriel, Parthenax tells us just how good of a job we did. Oh, and you remember the whole thing about Alva being a vampire and how I said I'd be back? Well, don't think I forgot about her.
Who's there?
I then head to Solitude to speak with the court wizard, cause she is secretly a vampire. And ironically, she sends us on a quest to go kill a bunch of vampires that have been causing trouble. So that's where I head off to. But don't worry, we will be back. If you haven't noticed yet, I'm going on a bit of a vampire killing spree. So I was already in the neighborhood, so I went ahead to Half Moon Mill to kill off Hurt. I'm not sure where her brother is, but I guess he heard about Van Helsing coming, so he ran off, I guess. I then killed the Master Vampire. I then go ahead and take out the Court Wizard of Solitude. I then move on to the final part of the challenge, completing the Dawnguard DLC along with fighting Lord Harkon as a werewolf. We arrive at the courtyard and I go ahead and finish the sundial puzzle, if you can even call it that. It's pretty simple. We then start my least favorite part of this DLC, the Soul Cairn part, whatever you want to call it. Now, obviously it would go against everything of that Van Helsing stands for, to become a vampire. So, rather than taking the option of becoming a vampire, he decides to just have half his soul taken. We enter the Soul Cairn and speak to Valerica. I defeat the 3 keepers, and then go and speak to Valerica. I then quickly take down Turnavir, and then grab the Elder Scroll. Once back in Tamriel, I return to Dexion to give him the final Elder Scroll, only to be revealed that he has blinded himself by reading the Elder Scroll. How wonderful. So then he sends me off to go find some moth ancestors or something. I'm not really sure, I wasn't paying attention. I gather the moths and I begin to read the Elder Scrolls. As I'm trying to leave the ancestral glade, I am locked out by a gate because nothing could impede in my path more. I have to resort to a glitch in the wall that is not shown here, but that I have to pretty much walk through the rocks and then around. After that, we make our way into the Vale. Once we enter the Vale, I have to go to the little shrines to fill the initiate's ewers. I'm going to skip past that part because, you know, it's as simple as running up to the shrine and then filling it up. Of course, I'm going to leave the last one in because that one's the most adventurous, I guess. I finally make it to the final basin, and then I head over to the inner sanctum. Now, this is honestly one of my more favorite parts of this DLC. I probably said that about a lot of things, but I don't quite remember. But I love the whole thing with the snow elves. That is amazing. I wish in the future that the snow elves come out of, what's the word? Extinction? I guess they're not extinct considering there's a few of them left, like this guy, the bad guy, and the brother. I don't remember their names. But hopefully in the future Elder Scrolls games, the snow elves make a return. Once inside the inner sanctum, I talk to Werther. I also watch as my frame rate drops significantly. Now, this isn't exactly a hard fight, it's just more annoying, considering I always forget that the ceiling falls through and it usually hits me right on the head. I then watch in awe as Serana picks up Werther with her bear strength, and then right after this, I do believe this is the quickest, absolute quickest way I've ever killed Werther. It takes maybe 10 shots from the crossbow. After defeating Werther, I return to Gelibor to get Ariel's bow. And then right after that, I kind of lied earlier when I said there was only one last loose end. There's actually two, if you want to consider finishing the Dawnguard DLC as one of them. There's another loose end that I have to go to and attend to. But first, I decide to take out a few bandit camps to go ahead and upgrade the werewolf perks so that I can be a little bit more prepared for the fight with Lord Harkon. I then finish my last loose end and return to Bloodchill Manor, and as you know, I was upgrading my wolf power, so you know what, I'm just going to let you guys watch how this goes down.
We've all seen enough. Put on some clothes.
I then return to Isran for the final time so that we can start the invasion of the vampire castle. I then put Van Helsing next to all of his vampire hunting buddies as they prepare for the final battle of the challenge run. As we invade the castle, you can see we make very short work of all the vampires inside. Then it's the final battle against Lord Harkon. Now, I know you can see me shooting a crossbow at him to start with, but later on I turn into the werewolf. I try to stick to the movie a little bit. You know, he kind of fights him regular, and then he turns into the werewolf, big reveal. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to that part and let you watch that pretty much unedited. One last thing I thought I needed to comment on is, well, this, you're seeing it on the screen. I'm not sure what happened, but, you know, here you go. Here's the fight. And that answers the question. Yes, you can beat Skyrim and the Dawnguard DLC as Van Helsing. Wow, this was really fun. This took me probably 2 days to finish. It's about 10 hours for the whole run. If you were to want to do this, yes, it was really fun, and I recommend doing it actually. Oh, and I guess Isran decided that even werewolves have to die. I don't know why. But please comment if you have any suggestions for other videos, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.